afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting Propagandacast Lehr with me, a host, Imperial Dane, Master of Instruction. We're off here to a bit of a topic I really wanted to do for a long time, actually. Part of the problem is sort of finding videos, more particularly than means I have to get around sort of doing myself in that regard, still have to work up, sort of get around to doing it. So, this is going to be sort of a more rudimentary introduction, but it's more sort of fortification theory. In this case, of course, it's going to take some more timing. It's always sort of you have to sort of train yourself to doing during matches. I feel, at least when it's something you're sort of trying to pioneer yourself in a sense. But still, I'm going to sort of stick to one part. We're going to, also something a bit more broader, which is MG usage. And again, made a video, how not to use an MG. Now we're going to sort of talk about a bit, how to use machine guns in buildings. And of course, with the MG42 recently improved in buildings, because previously it was like basically they were all drunk. Now, of course, the MG reacts much faster, and of course, now there's sort of things to consider when using a machine gun in a building, and then there's sort of further things you can sort of do to improve the situation there. Now, of course, one thing to always consider is, are the windows, where are the windows? If there's no windows, for example, in the vital site, it's not going to matter, and also consider then, what are the areas it is covering? For example, here, we've got here, here, and here-ish. Consider, for example, the church, on the other hand, it looks like you can cover this area, but there's actually a large piece of, this, which actually blocks a large part here, so it can't really cover much in that regard. You actually have to keep in mind in terrain of the building, otherwise you can, for example, risk infantry sort of gets up close, and that's going to be always the initial issue there with it. You have to consider, how is infantry going to rush towards it and try to deal with it? Because in particular, the Germans, they will try that. If you're the Soviets, they will come at you with Molotovs. If they're against the Americans, of course, they will try with grenades or smoke, though of course they might not. And you might say, well, if they bring up smoke, that's terrible. Now, of course, then there's things to sort of consider. Well, if they bring up smoke, they're spending resources on smoke grenades, which means they're going to be delaying their teching, which is a slight advantage to you, actually. And even then, there's something you can do to sort of make sure that it's not just smoking and then running up to you and pop a grenade through the window and going, special delivery, Kraut. And of course, we're going to be moving up to the next MG to sort of look a bit at that, what we can do about it, because there's some sort of basic fortification theory we can sort of apply to that. And again, I'll be making a much more instructional video into that. But again, consider windows, consider that, and consider also for some depending. And again, just like we approach, again, how not to do it. Again, consider again, how much of the fighting. Because if it's just not a lot of fighting, again, you're better off using it to support your troops or placing it elsewhere in another hotspot. And that again, if you have an MG in a building, consider, is it a hotspot? Because again, then you want it there generally, or some really vital area where there's always going to be harassment. There's the thing that again, it's always a bit, wishy-washy at times. It's always situational and so on. But all again, consider this is a hotspot, nothing at all happening. Again, if it's a hotspot or something really important, keep it there. But again, you do some things to improve the situation. Always keep some troops around though, again, sort of ensure cover flanks and all that, because otherwise your opponent will try to hit from several times again, or from several angles at a time. Of course, that's also a problem. So what can you do to sort of help against that? Well, of course, in that regard, there's also these things to consider. For example, here, imagine, they're going for here. There are several pieces of heavy cover they can apply, sort of, protect themselves against, maybe lob something against, even just have a shootout with it, in which case your MD42 will suffer, and of course, more importantly, it would also draw fire, in which case, again, we imagine here, they'll try and sort of sneak up here, then attack, and then you're like, oh, scheisse. Or again, here, then they'll run up here, and again, even if we sort of assume it's normally more effective now, of course, can still switch faster, it still means it has to switch, and that again, a lot of things can happen. So, of course, in that regard, want to sort of do something about it. In that regard, you deny them cover, you lay down barbed wire on those pieces of cover. Again, now that's actually quite common, though. Again, it's something more routinely seen amongst high-level players, but still, it's important. It's not just, of course, in when in firefight with regular infantry you have the advantage, but also when it comes to them being an MD42, they have nothing to, hide themselves from the suppression. So in that regard, barbed wire around all the pieces of heavy cover, for example, can do a lot to minimize the protection from suppression, getting suppressed faster. And once they're suppressed faster, the MG, whatever you can, of course, can switch to the next target, of course. Not all of this can also apply, of course, to, Allied machine guns. I'm not saying, this is only German machine guns. But, of course, for a lot of the more particular threats I'm talking about, of course, are more directly German. Because, again, as the Americans, you don't have to worry about Hans running up with a Molotov and popping it through a window or a pineapple grenade. You might, of course, worry about a stick grenade if you're up against the Oberkommando or a stun grenade, but even then it's never going to be quite the same, and certainly never a Molotov, which really just makes the building unusable for quite a long time. In grenades you can dodge, a Molotov you can also, but you can't really use the building for quite some time there. So there are some particular threats there, and of course there are also rifle grenades, and again, it's a bit here and there, but even then, of course, you can lay up barbed wire again, so they can't, get into a safe range and use that. And then, even then, again, it's having other troops nearby to deal with those rifle grenading, popping a grenade against them or something else, because rifle grenading does take some time before firing off, and that guy you can try and disrupt it, unless, of course, you fancy sacrificing a grenadier unit on that. So there are all these little considerations. But then, even then, of course, it's not going to be just necessary to just going to be enough, to sort of just wire it off. There's going to be other things. And again, that's where you sort of then add further barbed wire, but you sort of add barbed wire, not just sort of deny cover, but to deny direct paths to your building. And that's certainly one thing you don't see a lot of players doing with. For example, consider here. Again, there's going to be either here or here, but again, imagine this is wired off, then this is going to be a very bad path because you're going to be out a lot in the open. Then there's a second path. Where's that? Up north, where otherwise there's not actually going to be a lot to sort of see. There's a lot of chance of creeping up, and that's where then there's going to be another problem for your MG. In which case, of course, you go, oh well. In that case, I'll lay down barbed wire, so when he tries to rush in from the north, he's going to be, he's not going to be able to take a direct path. He has to sort of run around longer, and that gives your machine gun more time. And that's another factor here that barbed wire can do for you. It can buy you time in an engagement, and that's sort of an important thing a lot of players, don't consider. But barbed wire, used correctly, can buy you time to keep them out longer in the open as they maneuver, thus meaning you can do more damage. Your machine guns can have faster time to reach targets and suppress them, and again then, suppressed, move on to the next target. So in that regard, barbed wire is great for breaking up a larger infantry assault. So that's definitely something to consider. And again, when it comes to buildings, again, it's strong point. It's this building is vital to the defense of Great Britain or whatever. Again, you want to sort of ensure you can't have your opponent running directly, but at the same time, this is a want you completely enclosed because then you can't move around. So again, you leave gaps, but again, those need to be gaps that, again, don't matter for you because again, when you move up, you need to get there quickly. You don't need to attack this building rapidly. You can just sort of move up more leisurely. But again, when he has to attack, he has to sort of run through all these narrow points, and then he can also, lay down mines at these specific narrow points. And that's probably where things benefits more the Soviets, for example, with their mines. They can sort of more uniquely take advantage of that. Of course, the German mines sort of more, declare, ja, Minenfeld, go through at your own peril. So there's, of course, things to consider there. And, of course, another thing is, it's not going to stop a tank or a vehicle. And, of course, in that regard, mines are effective. And, of course, the Allies, the Americans in particular, can lay down tank traps. German Oberkommando West can, of course, later reinforce part, while otherwise the Wehrmacht says to have to rely on tank traps sort of from doctrines. But even then, a few mines and some other bits, can even make it difficult. And then, of course, there's also smoke, and then there's some mortars and all that, but even then, you have to sort of consider then, but wait, isn't that making things a lot more complicated? And that's the trick. By making just a bit of preparation, again, he's just basically drawing out some barbed wire here and there, you can force your opponent to have to do a lot more effort in taking a position. And that's the trick. It forces your opponent to put in a lot more effort, puts him out in the open a lot more, and so on. So there's a lot of tricks to that. And again, even you say you can't use the building, even then, he can't just magically do away with the barbed wire with a mortar. Even then, the barbed wire is still going to make things very difficult for him to move about on. So in that regard, again, barbed wire, if correctly used, can do quite a bit for you in sort of, fortifying a position and making it very difficult for your opponent to attack. So, that's really the part I really want to go. Of course, also machine guns in buildings, but also, considering barbed wire in conjunction with that. Again, barbed wire here, maybe also more direct lines. Again, this building could be practically a fortress. So, try to consider these things. And again, it's going to be some training. You're going to have sort of forces you have to remember to lay down barbed wire, pink pajamas 25, or whatever your username is, or Legolas party hat. I don't know what kind of names you're using, but of course I know what kind of name some of you are using, Adolf H Sausage 26, but I'm not going to go into those, but again, that's the point. It's still something that requires a bit of training, but again, once you sort of get into the mindset of it, it's easy. It's just, oh hey, barbed wire here, barbed wire here. All of a sudden, oh hey, this is actually a lot more easy to hold now with a single machine gun, for example, or a machine gun and some grenadiers, a machine gun or some engineers or conscripts or riflemen or your best hamster Merrill. Those kinds of things that are important to keep in mind. Of course, I'm not going to sort of guarantee you immediate success or anything. I can say you'll probably end up frustrating your opponent a lot more, and you might find yourself being able to defend points a lot easier without necessarily having to pour in everything. Then again, you might force your opponent to have to do more to take a vital point. So try and keep that in mind, and hopefully, again, I'm of course a bit unsure about this because again it's a topic I want to do long, but of course it's a bit of topic a bit unsure how to do. So I'm certainly unsure. I might not have done the best job here in explaining things, but hopefully people have a better sort of idea of machine guns and buildings. But again, barbed wire is the thing I really want to talk about. And again, this is just tip of the iceberg. So again, please let me know if this actually helped you and sort of got a better grip on sort of rudimentary fortifications. Please let me do. And of course, any sort of criticism is of course welcome. But otherwise, if you like it, want to see more, of course, let me know as well. I'll sort of try to get to work on it. But hopefully, again, this will be of an immense help to a lot of players. So if it is, please let me know, of course, and please let everybody else know, since of course they'll like to know as well. So thank you all for watching. Hope you learned something. I sincerely hope you did. And see you another time. Bye.